Hello YouTube family and welcome to Tea Time. If you haven't heard, Netflix's original series Bridgerton has absolutely taken the world by storm. With its steamy romances, gossip girl-esque monologues, and beautiful costuming, I mean really beautiful costuming, it's very enchanting and a little bit addictive. In its wake, it has reinvigorated what felt like a sleepy quarantine coma into this beautiful, inspired, enchanted atmosphere. It's also been inspiring some huge names in fashion, and I think it's gonna carry throughout the year of 2021. So in today's version of Fashion University meets Tea Time with Lauren, I wanted to talk all about Bridgerton, and specifically I wanted to talk about a new aesthetic that is on the rise because of Bridgerton, which is called Regencycore. A simple scroll through Pinterest, Instagram, or TikTok will lead you to several beautiful profiles of some historical costumers who are really diving into the Regency era costuming. And I think there's so much inspiration that we can find in Regencycore, specifically Bridgerton, and in other Regency period dramas like Emma. This is an aesthetic that I can definitely get behind. I've always been a huge fan of Regency period fashion. I think it's so beautiful, and I just remember kind of endlessly being inspired by all of like the Jane Austen adaptation films, particularly Pride and Prejudice, but most recently the new Emma film that has come out, which if you have not watched it, it's been out for I think about 8 months now. It is absolutely stunning and definitely worth your time. I have to admit, I was a little bit nervous to make this video, and I've actually put it off for a couple of weeks just because I was worried that I wasn't able to do this topic justice, because it is one that I love so much. But now that I've created it, I'm really happy that I did. Anyways, in today's video, I want to talk a bit about this new aesthetic that is coming out, Regencycore. I want to talk about kind of where it has come from, where its roots are in, but I also want to talk about the main characteristics that really are propelling it forward and how we can be inspired by it and style it mindfully without buying new things and by shopping our own closets. So why don't you go ahead and pour yourself a cup of tea and let's get started. So let's define Regencycore for a quick second. The development of Regencycore as an aesthetic and as a popular cultural movement is in direct response to the release of Netflix's Bridgerton earlier in this year, or in the Christmas of 2020. Big name magazines like Vogue and Marie Claire are already stating that Regencycore is going to be a major theme in the fashion for 2021. But with something this popular and kind of growing this quick, we have to ask ourselves, why is it that this movement has gained so much traction? Well, let's consider this for a moment. So much of this year and nearly all of last year has been spent at home in casual clothes or sweatpants. Regencycore then, and through Bridgerton, has offered the exact opposite of that, an essential escapism. But I think it's important to consider that while this kind of aesthetic is only now entering into our more popular vernacular, it's actually a reflection of a very specific time period in history of the 19th century. And this specific time period, the Regency period, has been praised and dreamed about since people have been reading Jane Austen. So let's go back in time a little bit and set the stage. The Regency period was approximately between 1811 and 1820, when King George was sick, and so his son, whose name was also George, I think, sat in for him as a proxy. It's often characterized by an extreme focus on courtship and marriage, along with fashion and propriety, or how you conduct yourself in public and what your manners are. If you've ever read any Jane Austen, or if you've watched any Jane Austen adaptations, this definitely makes sense. Interestingly enough, Regencycore comes at a very moment when our human relationships and the way that we dress and live our lives every day are completely destabilized and not normal. So it makes sense that we would be craving or want to reach for a more elevated kind of lifestyle. So I think that Regencycore helps us live through our creativity and be inspired on the daily when so much of our normal life just isn't available to us. So let's move on on from the history and into the fashion. This is a fashion channel after all. So let's talk about some of the main characteristics that make up the Regencycore aesthetic or fashion. So in other words, if you wanted to wear this, how would you do it? Well, there are definitely specific items that are trending right now that you see a lot of people adding to their closets. Things like corsets have skyrocketed in sales. Like everybody is buying corsets right now. Pearls are another big deal, which I wore mine today for the sake of this video. Bedazzled hair accessories or hair accessories in general. Long gloves or even short gloves that are more formal, and feathers, you know, to reflect the Featherington ladies. So those are all beautiful pieces, and I think they're a lot of fun. And if you have a corset that's lying around somewhere in your wardrobe, now would be the time to pull it out. But a lot of us just don't own bedazzled hair pieces or corsets that you can wear in public, or like feathers and hats. I want to emphasize that we can totally play into this kind of aesthetic without buying new things. In fact, we can shop our closets. And the best way to do that is by pinpointing some of the overarching themes or characteristics rather than items. So instead of looking for pieces to buy, you're looking in the things you already own and figuring out new ways to wear them. So first, I want to go through some of the themes and characteristics that I personally have noticed, and then I'll go through a short, small lookbook of some of the pieces that I've pulled out of my own closet and styled in a Bridgerton or Regencycore inspired way. So I think that one of the first things that we notice when we look at Regencycore, or if we've watched Bridgerton, is that there is a large emphasis on necklines. So either that neckline is square and low to emphasize the bust, or it's high and opulent, like this collar a little bit. So if we look at a lot of Phoebe Bridgerton's outfits, a lot of hers are low and square because she's a debutante and she really needs to impress. But for example, if we look at Eloise's outfits, she often has a high collar going on. So just paying attention to your collar and how you style it can make a huge difference for this kind of aesthetic. Another one is puff sleeves. Puff sleeves are a big thing for the Regencycore aesthetic, and honestly, I'm so here for it because I love puff sleeves so much. I've loved them since I was a kid, so I definitely have several pieces in my wardrobe that actually already fit this category. Along with puff sleeves and that kind of airiness that you get around your arms is a pairing of the puff sleeve with sheer fabrics. So we're seeing a lot of light fabrics, and that kind of plays into this overall theme or overall feeling of femininity or lightness or a sense of the ethereal. Next are ornamented items, items that are beaded or have appliques on them. That is another thing. I don't have personally a lot of items like that in my wardrobe. I have more printed items or items with patterns rather than items with appliques, but that's okay. If you have any of those items, now's definitely the time to pull them out. Next kind of goes along with that, we see a lot of floral applique. So there's a lot of floral detailings, and this works well for me because I love floral patterns and prints, so I have some of those in my wardrobe. Like I said before, they aren't applique, but I definitely think they do the job here. Next is focusing on pastel or light colors, colors that evoke a kind of femininity or delicacy in a stereotypical kind of way. And the last thing that we're seeing, which I haven't done for this video, but I have done for the example outfits, is pulling your hair back and wearing hair accessories. Hair accessories play a big part in Bridgerton and in Regencycore, and most of the time women wouldn't wear their hair down until they were going to bed. So pulling your hair back definitely plays into this aesthetic a bit, and it's fun because if you're like me, I wear my hair down almost every day, so pulling it back actually feels a little bit formal and exciting and new. So let's go ahead and look at some of the outfits that I've pulled out today and how these contribute to the overall Bridgerton or Regencycore aesthetic. So this very first one is more of a casual look at this Regencycore. I have the puff sleeves going on with this light linen blouse, and I love it, but I've paired it with jeans because I wanted it to be casual. But rather than pairing it with a pair of dark wash jeans, I paired it with a pair of light wash jeans to keep the contrast low and to keep that emphasis on light colors. I've also avoided tucking this shirt in because I think the floaty nature of this blouse really contributes to that kind of ethereal quality that we see a lot in Regencycore outfits. The neckline is also something to notice here. It's not a specifically square neckline, and it certainly is relatively modest, but I think just showing a little bit more of the shoulder or a little bit more of the collarbone likens it to that air of femininity that Regencycore and Bridgerton in general is so famous for. This next outfit is actually the outfit that I'm wearing in this video, except for I have my hair pulled back in this one. So I've started with this beautiful high collar blouse that I think is really nice, and of course, like I said, kind of gives me a little bit of Eloise Bridgerton vibes, and I've paired it with a floral print skirt. I love this skirt. I've recently added it to my winter capsule wardrobe. And so even though the skirt itself is dark, I think it contrasts nicely with the lace detailing on top. So yeah, this isn't exactly Regencycore. I mean, like I said, I'm shopping my closet here, but it still touches on some specific characteristics of that kind of aesthetic. The ruffled collar, the slight puff in the sleeves, the feminine detailing, and the hair pulled back. Also, you'll probably notice that I do have a headband on. So just adding ornamentation to my hair is another way to play into this really nicely. For the next outfit, I've once again gone for a more casual kind of Regencycore look, bringing it into the 21st century, making it really wearable. And this blouse is one of my favorites. Now, you'll notice that several of these pieces are short-sleeved or more warm weather pieces, and that's because I've really had to kind of dig into my spring-summer capsule to make this video work, because so many of my pieces from that capsule, I think, play into this aesthetic. So that's why you're seeing some more summery or spring themed pieces. But the neckline to this blouse is really beautiful. We have ruffle detailing, but we also have a square neckline. However, this one is a bit modest, which I prefer, but of course, if you would like to show off a bit more of your chest, that is definitely something that works out really, really well with the Regencycore aesthetic. I've paired it with a light wash jean, actually, this time, rather than the contrast of the last outfit. And even though the blue is a little bit dark, the lightness of the materials in the blouse and the sheer nature of this fabric really keeps that floaty feeling going on. And this last outfit that I've put together for you actually features a new dress that I'm adding to my all year basics wardrobe. It's part of my attempt to introduce some more color into my life, so I guess you're getting a little bit of a preview of it. This beautiful dress is one of my favorites, and even though the neckline is not low and the puff sleeves aren't super puffy, I still think there is something that can be pretty royal or at least floaty about this dress. The tiered skirt, the beautiful detailing in the collar, the lace collar, the slight puff in the sleeves, and the shape of the sleeves in general feels maybe even less like a Bridgerton lady and maybe more like a Bridgerton man. Even though this dress is super feminine in general, I think the sleeves are a little bit more of that like poet shirt or masculine kind of look. But regardless, I really love this dress for this kind of aesthetic, and I've dressed it up by pulling my hair back and just really highlighting the collar and making sure that the dress is the star of the show. Those are just some examples to show you that you can shop your closet first. You do not need to buy new things to participate in this fun new trend. So thank you so much for joining me today for tea time and for some of the ways that we can introduce this Regencycore, Bridgerton inspired, Jane Austen inspired aesthetic into our wardrobes. Like I said before, this is one of my favorites, so I've had a lot of fun making this video. Before I go, I want to ask you to please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoy content like this. I love doing Fashion University and tea times, but I also do lookbooks, capsule wardrobe tours, and just capsule wardrobe tips in general. Leave a comment down below what you think about this aesthetic, and if you have any pieces in your wardrobe that you think are wearable for it. It's been an honor drinking tea with you today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye!